This is the Independent Dealer Podcast. Education by dealers for dealers. Now, here are your hosts, Luke Godwin and Jeff Watson.
Hello and welcome to the Independent Dealer Podcast, brought to you by Buckeye Dealership Consulting. Fall convention season is coming up, Luke. We want to make sure everyone listening knows about some upcoming dates that they need to get in their calendar now and start making some plans to get on a plane and come hang out with us in real life. IRL, as the kids say.
In real life, IRL.
Yeah.
NIL, that's how the college people get paid.
Yeah, NIL is the end of college sports.
College sports, yeah.
It's getting really nasty out there. The first one we have coming up is Policy Week. So if you plan on being in DC for Policy Week and helping NIADA go up and storm the Capitol and knock some heads around, that's going to be September the 23rd. You're going to want to go out there. It's a great time to meet with the leadership of NIADA, meet with the leadership of the country, go talk car politics and make sure they know how to steer these rules in the right direction. I'm not sure what the agenda is yet. I'm sure they're going to be out picketing the CFPB headquarters right there on Constitution.
And
so that'll be a really good time.
Yeah, and actually the week before that, just to give the guys at Mid-Atlantic a shout out, Brandis, they have their big deal September 15th through the 17th in Atlantic City. We are not able to make that one. We just can't make it happen with dates and this, that, and the other. But I think that's going to be a good show. He's put a lot of work into it to make sure folks up in that area get there.
Yeah. And we won't be at the Policy Week, but we will be at the same hotel, from what I understand, with our 20 group. So if you do go out to Policy Work, definitely hit us up. Let's get together and do dinner one of those nights.
We'll be there Wednesday, so come hang out.
Have a little partay. And then right after that, we're turning around, heading to Lease Here, Pay Here in sunny San Diego, right, Luke?
Yeah, we're going to be there. And, those folks at Lease Here, Pay Here Capital, they put on a great show and very knowledgeable people that attend that show. If you're a Lease Here, Pay Here and you're not going there, I'm not sure why you're a Lease Here, Pay Here, honestly. So, so go
Get
there.
out the business.
Yeah, we're gonna be interviewing a dealer who's been in business a long time. It's going to be a great deal there. So come see us and
it's just a great event that Tim and his team put on. I mean, just top notch all the way around. It's a great place. Awesome time to be in San Diego. I mean, the weather there in October is great.
Perfect.
Following that, we're going to turn around and head out to Dealer Forum. So that's NIADA's fall show. The Buy Here, Pay Here specific used to be NABD. Yep. That'll be in New Orleans this year, November 11th. So that'll be a really good time. They've been hopping this one all over the country, but this time we're going to be a little more East Coast-ish.
Mid-country.
East for me, mid nothing. It's a friggin' 5-hour flight. So but we'll be there, hopefully. I think we're planning on being there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
And hopefully presenting, doing some education at that one. And then may or may not be a used car week, November 18th, right after that. I did just see on their agenda, they have a pickleball tournament the first day. So we may have to make that one work.
Yeah. I've been playing a little pickleball, Jeff. Maybe you and I could go dominate people. You're a lot better. You're a lot better than I am. But.
So that's used car week, November 18th down in Scottsdale. So that'll be a good one as well, guys. So, and a lot of other state conventions that we can't mention and can't make it to. I know Florida's got theirs, and some.
I'll be at Florida.
It's
the Monday, Tuesday after Lease Here, Pay Here. So I'm kind of coming here, driving to Florida. So I'll be there Monday morning with a dealer panel. So come see us there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great times to go out to these conventions to get best practices, guys. That's what it's all about. The changing landscape, as you guys know, things ebb and flow in our business from, laws, regulations, enforcement. We've got the car rule possibly coming down. We've got a lot of things that we just need to stay on top of. And of course, our businesses change, right? As we start to evolve and say, hey, what was working for me in the past is not working for me now. What is that solution, right? This is the place to go out and talk to other dealers and find out what they're doing to tackle these changes, or maybe to see things in a different light. Because as we say, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, things do change, Jeff. But the one thing that doesn't change that we're going to talk about here today, you know what that is?
Yeah.
cars break after we sell them.
They break. They always break.
That's what I tell customers. Like I said, I can promise you one thing. I can guarantee you one thing's going to happen to your car, within a year. And they're like, what? It's going to break down.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. So
it's really interesting to me that a lot of consumers don't think that will happen or should happen, right?
yeah.
And I want to talk about that larger philosophy because it is definitely something that I struggle with, right? It happens setting up the expectation of it being a used car and these being small explosions that happen thousands of times a second that we try to control inside of a metal casing. And then we try to harness that heat and energy into the right direction. At the same time, we're trying to cool it down because we can't handle all that heat. And then we're trying to shoot this thing down a bumpy road at 80 miles an hour and keep us all inside of this little metal coffin that we've built and put on four wheels. Like, it's really kind of a mind-blowing situation. You've got water, you've got fuel, you've got air, you've got electricity, and all these systems have to work. Yeah, they all got to work at the exact same time to make these things function.
In 110 to 15 degree weather outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you throw the extreme heats or the extreme cools into the situation. How do you do it, Luke? Let's talk about the practical steps that you're taking at your dealership to help set that expectation. Because one thing I found, and what you mentioned earlier, is when we come in at the time of sale and we try to lower that expectation as far as we can, your car's going to break down. It's going to have problems. You need to put money aside. The brakes are going to go bad. The radiator is going to pop. Your car will blow up. It makes it a little bit easier after the sale.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody out there is using a WEO form. WEO is a form that, at the time of sale, you may, to sell a car, customers may say, hey, I'll buy this car, but I want the radio knob fixed, or I want the right rear window fixed because it's not working. And so you've got to train your salespeople during sales meetings. It's not always about sales. It could be about things that go into the sales process. You got to explain to the consumer that, hey, you didn't put it on this WEO, we're not going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard conversation to have. And it's a hard conversation to train into salespeople because salespeople will promise the world if they get the car sold. And so the training has to begin with your sales staff, and they have to be confident enough in the product you're selling and confident enough in their sales ability to transfer that to the consumer so they understand what we're responsible for and what we aren't responsible for.
Yep.
The number one, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say it's an incredibly crucial document. It's the first one that we print out. It's the first one we go over at the time of closing. The biggest line that we have on our WEO or due bill, whatever you want to call it, the very biggest line says, please write down the name of the mechanic that you had inspect this car. The name of the mechanic that you had inspected, because we require that every customer, when they're out on their test drive, that they take it and get it inspected by someone. Whether it's their mechanic, their cousin, their uncle, their neighbor, whatever, someone has got to look this car over and give it a clean bill of health, because I would rather know before the sale if there's a bunch of issues that I can address than have them come in after the sale. But what it also does is it transfers some of that liability mentally, right? Some of that mental liability can be transferred over to that mechanic that inspected the car if something pops up after the sale.
We used to have that where people did that all the time, and they people don't do it. We don't require it. People don't do it typically anymore with us. So I think people trust that we do it right. There again, that we do it right. They still come back sometimes, and we've had this discussion with somebody. Hey, you came back 3 weeks later and you took the Jiffy Lube and they said you need the transmission fluid flush.
Yeah,
you ready? No, we're not doing that, but we make sure we tell the customer up front, Mr. and Mr. Customer, do you understand that you're buying a used car, right? It's used. Every part on that car is used except for what's been replaced new, right? But more than likely, everything's used because we had to drive it out of the shop. So as soon as we cranked it up, it's used now, right? You do understand that. And that's a really big way it's a really good way to educate customers on what they're buying. The parts are worn. If it's got 100,000 miles, some components have 100,000 miles on it, right? If it's 15 years old, some of those components are 15 years old. You have to understand that. Your salespeople have to be comfortable in what they're selling to teach the customer that. You're still going to get pushback. But if you do this right, and if you train right up front, it takes a lot of the heat off the back end.
Yeah, it definitely helps to set that expectation. On our WIO, we do have a couple of lines on the WIO where salesmen are allowed to put one or two items. They have a max of $200. And that's what they tell the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, I know you've got 3 things on this list that drive you nuts. I'm allowed to do 200 worth. Which one's most important to you? Do you want me to fix the crack in the rear tail light, or do you want me to fix the hole in the headliner? Right? Like, which one is most important? Oh, well, I can live with the scratch on the bumper. No big deal. But if you get that stereo fixed, great. I can pitch it in up to $200. Or, hey, this might be a bigger deal. I can't put this on the WIO. Let's get it fixed now. Because you say that there's a shake in the front end. That could be a 10-cent wheel weight, and it could be a $2,000 axle. So let's figure out what that is before we put it on the WIO and roll you down the road, right? So when you find those things up front, it's so much easier. And salesmen they literally just want to throw a temp tag on it and get it out of here as quick as possible. Because guess what? Post-sale, it's not their problem, right? Now it becomes your manager's problem, or your shop manager's problem, or someone else's problem.
Yeah, but it tends to always run through the salesperson that sold them the car first. So if that happens a good bit at our store, we make sure that they accept some responsibility. One of the ways we do it is this: a customer should go out and inspect the car before they sign the WIO, because what you don't want is the customer to buy it, say we don't owe them anything, and then 2 days later goes, well, there was a scratch on the door. Well, you go out there and you educate the customer. All right, Mr. Customer, I want you to walk around the car and make sure there's nothing that you need fixed on this car before we sell it to you, right? And they'll look around. No, everything's good. Okay, everything's great. So cosmetically, that's good. We even encourage our sales staff to set the Bluetooth, the radio with the person's phone, Bluetooth wise, and make a phone call. Put on their favorite song, turn it up. Speakers sound good. Yeah, they sound great. All right, we're done. That way, the consumer understands that, hey, you come back 3 days from now and say a speaker's blown. What we're going to tell you is, you remember when we sat in the car and hooked your phone up and how everything sounded great? It sounded great. Then you blew your speakers. And we leave it at that, So it takes a little bit more time at the time of sale if you do it right. But man, it helps on the back end if you do it right.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to talk about, is that investment up front, really, really, and just doing it right up front is going to solve some of the back end stuff. Now let's transition to that. Let's say you do have a post-sale complaint, Luke.
Yeah.
What are the chances that issue was not there at the time of sale and popped up a day or two later, and all of a sudden it was your fault?
So that's funny. I have a list on my whiteboard right now, and it says normal concerns customers have. And the normal ones we see: brake noise being number 1, suspension noise being number 2, and number 3 being radio and speakers, right? Or key fobs or TP mesh sensors or whatever, those type things. And so we have to know how to deal with those. So typically when that happens, customers come in, we go for a ride with the customer. Let's see what it's doing, because you're right. A lot of times they were there before, and you have to explain that to the customer. You're buying a 120,000 mile car. This is normal for a 120,000 mile car. But there again, sometimes things do break between the time they buy it and a week later. We see it happen every day. And in those cases, we fix it. Yeah, that's the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah. So it's a good time to plug our guys at Buckeye. We do a 3-month, 3,000 mile powertrain warranty on everything we sell. That's just included, right? Engine, transmission. We've got a $250 deductible, and it's gives you that small. I know that's the minimum that anyone does these days, and I'm still kind of at the minimum. But hey, Mr. Customer, we can see the belts, the brakes, the radiators. What we can't see is inside the engine. If that thing's going to grenade tomorrow or in 10 years. So we try to give you a little warranty and peace of mind against that. So we do the warranty to try to cover the major catastrophic things, right?
Yep.
What's yours, Luke?
We give a 12-month, 12,000 miles with $100 deductible, and it covers everything. It's pretty much bumper to bumper.
Wow. Like stereo, window regulators.
Not stereo, but window regulators. Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
And
that's for 12 months?
12 months, 12,000 miles. And we've been doing it for a long time. And reinsurance is a partner with us, right? Because it helps with these type of situations. Because a lot of times you can get 2 weeks later a warranty claim. That happens. And so we've got to make sure that if the customer comes in and says, hey, my transmission's slipping. Well, guess what, Mr. Customer, you got it covered. We covered it for you. So using Buckeye and using reinsurance to mitigate those issues that are going to happen to used cars, you build a reputation with your customers that, hey, actually they're giving you that warranty and they're fixing the product. They're doing what they tell you. And so that really, using reinsurance goes a long way to helping mitigate these problems when they happen.
Yeah. What about the situation? I mean, that 12-month bumper to bumper-ish type warranty, that sounds like complete brain damage, but you do it. How do you keep it from being abused? When someone comes in here and says, oh, my window regulator's not working, and it's like, well, yeah, that's because your freaking 12-year-old tried to crawl out of it, climbed up over the window, or you lent the car to your cousin who was drunk and he smashed into a curb, and that's why your wheel bearing's out. Like, how do you handle those situations?
You'd be amazed what $100 deductible keeps out of your shop. So the way we do it, when a customer calls with a complaint or they go to our website to start our appointment, they'll put in whether they think it's a warranty claim. We'll follow up, but we send them a pre-authorization of $100. They have to authorize $100 before we'll work on it, or we'll touch it. And they understand it has to be paid before they pick it up. So that slows some of that stuff down, especially with suspension parts, because a lot of times, there's a suspension noise or something that's maybe $100 to fix or $150. You see a lot of our warranty claims come through that are $50 because it was a $150 problem, right? So when the customer has to participate in the repair, they have a better idea of, is this really a problem or is this a problem I caused? Do we get people that wreck their car and come in and their radiator's spewing water everywhere and they're like, or coolant, they say, man, this should be covered under warranty. No, it actually is not covered under warranty because you ran into someone. I didn't run into somebody. So did you loan your car to somebody? Yeah, I said, well, they ran into somebody.
Yeah.
And this is an insurance thing. And so you have to be very confident in your service department and how you inspect the cars when they come in to know whether was this a problem beforehand or was this a problem later on, because a lot of times it's later on.
You told us a story last week or the week before about a customer who had an issue, and when you got it and inspected it, you found that a squirrel had gotten up in there and started eating through stuff?
Yeah. We've had this happen multiple times. And actually the car is sitting 10 feet from me right this second. And
you guys got some crazy squirrels out there, man. Where are you living? What's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of squirrels in these pine trees in South Carolina and these oak trees. But what a customer had the car towed in because it wouldn't start. We opened the hood and there's a nest of squirrels living under there, and one of them had chewed through a wire, shorted something out. It shorted out the PCM. And so, it's one of those things, customer, we're doing our best to fix it for the customer, but that's the way it goes. And that's right. It's not our squirrel. That's what we told her. And I've got another car sitting out there, Jeff, this is how you have to really pay attention to what goes on. And a lot of times we pull a Carfax when a car comes in for service to see what's going on with it, right? And we have a car sitting out there. The car was wrecked. It's an Infiniti, wrecked on the left front after we sold it to the customer. Their insurance company fixed the car. Probably probably 2 weeks after the car was fixed, one of the parts that the insurance company put on the car broke. And when it did, it took out a whole wiring harness, which is a $7,000 repair.
Wow.
Well, they bring it to us on our warranty company to cover it. No. This is not on us. This is on your insurance company. And so you got to make sure that you're, using all the resources available to make sure you're paying for what actually is your fault and not what happens because of customers, problems.
Yeah. So let's dig into that deeper, because that's the issue, and the real rub is, say you have an issue and you find out that, hey, this is either user error or just dumb luck, but this is not covered under my warranty. It doesn't fall in line because of the component or because of the issue that went down. What do you do in that situation where it's not cut and dry, it's not black and white, it's this weird gray area where the customer's like, well, I don't know how the squirrel got in there. Like I can't control it, but what it did is it caused a big problem that I can't fix. So
what you ask yourself, if you're a buy here, pay here dealer, you ask yourself, do I want a repo or do I want to fix a person's car? Right? So typically,
what helps you make that decision?
How well the customer's paid. And so if the customer is being real to us, they've paid well, and they're very sincere, they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Can you help? Yeah, of course we'll help that customer. We'll finance it as a side note over a couple months. But sometimes it's dumb luck, right? And we, we have that gray area. It's really not in our warranty. Our warranty's very specific. If it's not mentioned, it's not covered, right? But you can still massage it a little bit. And so if it just happens, either we'll fix it or we'll let the warranty company fix it. When you own the warranty company, when you own your reinsurance company, you can make those calls.
Yeah.
But the worst thing to do is, and if you're a retail dealer, if you don't fix it, oh my gosh, they go and they repo to one of your best banks, or they leave you a bad review. Sometimes they leave you a bad review and you fix the car too, which is the double whammy, which really hurts. But
another issue.
That's a whole nother issue. But if you treat customers right, you're going to make so much money. The long and the short of it, if you can afford to treat your customers right, you shouldn't be in business if you can't afford to treat your customers right. But if you can treat your customers right, the social capital that you earn from that will continue to build your business.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when you do that, do you get, well, there's two areas I want to touch on there. So if you do something that is outside your warranty, or if someone's going to do a goodwill type repair, we need to make sure we're getting a goodwill repair form signed, right? Because that could be an implied warranty if we start to warranty something that's not written in our warranty, right?
You should do that, Jeff.
You should.
Yeah, you should. I don't.
So
I just fix it.
Slight legal, not legal advice, but a warning. Talk to your attorney about that. If you are fixing things that are not spelled out in your warranty, and in fact, anytime you fix something for a customer, you should be having them sign a release when they take the car, especially if it's a goodwill part, that this is not, just because we did it this time doesn't mean we're warranting it every time or everything because we did one thing. And you got to be careful, because I do think that there are attorneys and AGs that will come after you for those types of things.
Which is such garbage, right?
Totally.
I mean, it is such garbage. But anyway, that's what you should do. And
same thing with the bad review. If you have a bad review on Google, obviously, guys, we're addressing every single one of those, because it's the bad reviews and the complaints to Better Business Bureau that escalate into complaints to the FTC and the CFPB that end up knocking at your door, right?
For sure.
You've got to log them. You've got to address them. And then when you have a situation and you've resolved it, do you have the customer? We have a mutual release form that we like to get the customer to sign that basically says, hey, we had a bad situation on this car. We either remedied the situation by fixing it, or we took the car back and we erased your loan, or we unwound the deal. basically, you're not going to talk trash on us. We're not going to talk trash on you. We're not going to pursue you for any future damages. You're not going to pursue us for any future damages or past damages. Do you do any kind of mutual release?
I have before in the past when it was something that was egregious on my part. Yeah,
Mm.
like one of the times I remember doing this, we sold a car that we didn't know was salvage. We just didn't know, and it might have been before Carfax or whatever. And um, the customer, I mean, years later, is like they owed.
Yikes.
I mean, years later, it's like,
Yeah.
hey,
They finally pay it off and get the title, and they're like, "What the crap?"
well, it was before they got the title. They still owed about $4,000 on the car, and so I handed them the title. So don't worry about that $4,000. Here's the title. It's paid for, and they signed a release. And yeah, who knows, man? Things like that happen. And when things get bad, like real bad, like that, you should get it released. I've had some doozies where customers just made me mad. This was back before I was as chill as I am now. I would just say, just bring it back. I'll buy it back. And unfortunately, when you say that to a customer without a stipulation of when they can bring it back, I had one that I told them that, and they didn't do it the next day. About 4 months later, they came back and said, "Hey, you said you'd buy the car back." I said that 10,000 miles ago.
Yeah.
And they had an attorney, man. Anyway, I got out of that one by buying the car back, right? But
it's definitely in the details sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, guys, we get into these arguments and we have these hypotheticals posed to us on like the Facebook posts and the groups. And every single time the experienced dealer will say, bite your tongue, put your tail between your legs, buy the car back, pay up, settle. I know you're right. I know you did everything by the book. I know you were completely on board and they signed every document under the sun, but just be done with it. Move on, guys. It's not worth the brain damage, the headache, the exposure, the nonsense.
It's, arbitration documents, agreements are great. Never let it get to arbitration. Solve these things beforehand. It really, it's going to cost you way less money, right? And so I would recommend everybody just to treat customers how you want to be treated when you are buying something. And if you do that, all this should wash out in the end. Sometimes customers are going to make you so mad, you want to fire a customer. I've had customers I wanted to fire, 4 cars ago. And if I'd have fired them 4 cars ago, I would have missed out on selling them 4 cars, right?
Yeah.
So just be aware of that.
I do think there's an 80-20 rule in buy here, pay here specifically that, 20% of our customers cause 80% of our headaches. And I would like to identify those ones up front.
It's truly less than that.
1090.
I think it's more like 496. And I told one of our we had one of those days, a few weeks ago where every customer that talked to you was complaining and yelling and all that. And I said, man, you need to look at this. If we're collecting 900 accounts a month and on average, you got 2 people that are mad with you, maybe 3, you're doing a pretty daggum good job. And those 3 people create a problem. We understand that. But look at it in relative terms. You're selling 40 or 50 cars a month, and you've got 1 or 2 that are 3 that are being aggravated at any one time, and it's usually not all the time. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, but it can feel like the world, right?
That's right. It can feel like
that's obviously the most frustrating part. And before we go, obviously we need to talk about our friends at Blytzpay and their payment forms, and the payment ability is so easy. When you try to collect those deductibles, are you doing it through Blytzpay? Are you sending them a Blytzpay invoice or request that they pay through that, or do you do it some other way?
We do it a different way, but that's a great idea, actually. And the only reason we do it a different way because our service department is not on Blytzpay. They're on another
function on their own credit card system.
Yeah. But if we had them on Blytzpay, that's exactly how we do it because it's so easy to do. And a shout out to Blytzpay when you talk about customer service and the issues you can have with our customers. We repossessed a car from this guy who only made 1 payment, and he tried to go back and undo the one payment he made us and the down payment.
Mm.
Blytzpay fought for us, Jeff. And it took us 45 days to get it done. But because Blytzpay and the way they handle it, they were able to get that money back for us. I've never won one of those credit card disputes.
No.
But with Blytzpay, I've won one. And it was
Wow.
it was a big one. And I was going to
Congratulations.
I was going to be mad.
That is a really big deal. And as I deal with these other vendors, I'm currently dealing with a phone vendor that will remain unnamed because they have been the biggest frustration and just thorn in my side and how difficult it is to get things done. It gives me two premonitions. A, I don't want to deal with vendors that are .com SaaS startup hyper growth companies because they got so many freaking layers of nonsense to justify their valuations that they're impossible to deal with. So there's a frustration right there. But also, I don't want to be that company. I don't want to be the company where a customer calls in and has a complaint and they have to step through 3 different managers and a salesman and a shop manager and a service manager and then go back to the manager to try to get an answer to their problems, right? Yeah. That is very, very frustrating to not be able to get to. So in our dealership, we have one guy, every customer service complaint goes through. He has the ability to make the decision. What's one of our core values is a rectify. And so the R in our name, FOUR, the R stands for rectify. And that just means that we try to empower the employees to make the right decision for the customers, no matter what it is. The only thing I say is the only wrong decision is no decision. So if you just try to put these customers out because you're afraid to pull the trigger, or you don't know if you should replace the engine, or you don't know if it's under warranty or not under warranty, or you don't know if this, just do it. Get the car towed, get the engine ordered, get it put in, do what you got to do to make it right for the customer, and then we'll figure everything else out later, right? So
I agree. That's great.
Be a company where you're not frustrated to interact with your own company. That's crucial.
That's super interesting. If I was slightly bigger, and hopefully we'll get there one day, I'll have somebody that the only thing they do is handle inbound hot customers, right? Because having that person being able to rectify and communicate properly will take most of your issues and eliminate them. Customers get rowdy because they aren't being heard typically.
They aren't being heard and they're not being communicated with. Yeah, have someone that can take the time to sit down with them and chit chat and talk it through the problem. They just want to be heard. And when you're the one trying to do it, or when your shop manager or parts manager or mechanic is the one trying to do it, they don't got time for that. They're just trying to move on to the next thing and trying to get out the door. So make sure you've got one person who has the time and patience to really help customers through these issues. It's going to pay dividends.
Yep, sure will.
Cool. Luke?
See you, brother.
Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening. Please leave us a review. We'll catch you in the next episode.